What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I want to give you a quick update on Faraday, ticker's FFIE. I've done a couple updates in the past based on technicals, so I'll give you once again a good update of what the true data is saying and potentially where it might be going. Before I get into any of that, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And without further ado, let's get right to it. So based on my last update, it was around the $1 range, and I did say based on the technicals on the data, it does appear as though it was going to do a pullback. Of course, I didn't think it would be this extreme, so it is currently sitting at 66 cents, down roughly about 7.13%. Based on the intraday today, it is just taking a very large sell-off right now. And even though there is some pretty optimistic news that did come out a couple days ago, so Faraday Future announces the receipt of first payment from the recent round of 135 million financing, and will also host the Faraday Global Investor Communications and Proxy Voting webinar on Monday, February the 13th. And this is over and above technically this that was announced right here. So it looks like February 28th, 2023 will be their actual stockholder meeting. So of course that definitely will be one to pay attention to. But at the end of the day, this round of financing is very good because it basically helps them reach that milestone in March of 2023. So they're kind of pushing it back a little bit, still a fair amount of risk. So this is why it's really gone down quite a lot. But of course, as with the age-old saying is, scared money doesn't make any money. I think that's a saying or whatever it is. But keep in mind though, I'm not a financial advisor, so do your own due diligence at the end of the day. Faraday is a fairly good potential company that could really yield a lot. And based on the actual dark pool transactions, things are looking fairly okay. So there's two transactions that was done today, 141,000 and 173,000. Of course, that's kind of in line with the expectations and what's normally been. And then when it comes down to this is all the transactions on the secondary market. Of course, secondary market is what typical retail investors do trade on, and there was actually none today. Keep in mind though, this is just, like I said, already over $100,000. And based on the options activity, I like to look at this just to give you a good sentiment, and it's mixed. Similar to my last update as well, things are just all over the place. Nobody necessarily knows where Faraday is going. And even when it comes down to the latest round of 13Fs, unfortunately, a lot of institutions have been kind of foreseeing a potential issue with Faraday and have been getting out. So you do see a couple of the red positions getting completely out, but for instance, even Citigroup did get out 67% of their position. So once again, you're kind of seeing some fear with Faraday behind the scenes. And obviously next Tuesday, I believe, is the upcoming CPI data. So I think a lot of people are very much on edge when it comes down to that. If it is very positive, the CPI, and once again showing a little bit more of a further downtrend, anticipate stocks like Faraday that have a fairly low market cap, which of course is 489 mil, just to go up very, very fast. And I'll give you a quick update while I am on Ortex. So currently the short score is 75. The higher the number, the higher the likelihood of a squeeze happening. Utilization is 100%. There's currently 171.99 million shares on loan, so that's definitely something to watch for. It's definitely creeping up there. Shorts right now though are returning 1.76 million shares. So whenever I see this, I see a little bit more of a problem. And of course, with Faraday or any stock that does have a fairly high retail presence, it's just a lot of retailers play with too much emotion. So this is how shorts could technically return shares and it still go very much down. Just a lot of fear and people get too much panicked. But at the end of the day, if you do your own due diligence, trust that Faraday is going to, for instance, get out of their financial difficulties, they're going to produce a lot of good vehicles, deliver and so forth, then invest. Take advantage of these discounted prices. Whereas if you are doubtful, then maybe just watch it from the sidelines, potentially until things get maybe a little bit better. But of course, like I said, this is a little bit more of a red flag potentially. 21.13% is the short interest, which of course is a percentage of the free float. And based on the technicals though, I always like to look at the technicals. Technicals don't lie by any means. Stochastic is currently at 21, so it did go from very much overbought to now oversold. And so this is one thing that I did say that most likely will aid in us going down potentially. Momentum number retail investors have for the most part just been getting out and not really looking back ever since February the 3rd, which coincidentally I believe was my last update on Faraday. But on the actual chart though, it is actually above the 50-day moving average still, and also the 100-day moving average. So in general though, it's pulling back, but still fairly bullish in the bigger picture. Of course, if it does break that 50-day moving average, then potentially it could drop very, very fast. But of course, there has to be a lot that does happen depending on, like I said, about the CPI. If it does show that inflation is in fact going up, then stocks like Faraday, unfortunately, are going to get really much damaged and slaughtered. But again, I am not a financial advisor, so I'm just listing what I see based on the technicals, the data points, and where things might be going. So hopefully, in my opinion, I think it might actually, since it did break that central Bollinger Band, might continue to break down even further, especially leading up to that CPI data, most likely up until the 100-day moving average, which is around 55 cents, 56 cents. So it might actually trend all the way down to there before it does bounce up and goes up higher. Of course, a lot of things could happen if there's a good piece of news that does come out with stochastic and it being very much oversold. It could very much rally just based on any fundamental news. So let me know your thoughts on all of that in the comments below. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. Give yourself a shout out in the comments below if you have been buying this recent dip and potentially where you see things going. Do you see things at $2, $5? Where do you see things going, for instance, in the short term or potentially in the long term? On a side note as well, if there is any other stocks that you are interested in seeing as far as a quick summary based on this, let me know and throw the tickers in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to really address that. If you do like my content, want to support the channel, take a look at my memberships, link in the description below, or just hit the join button at the bottom of the screen. With that said, appreciate you guys watching. Let's all make a lot of money on Faraday.